Hello friend. Today I wanted to make a video about my shifting understanding of the spiritual path and the different vehicles one can use to control the chaotic mind and find peace in the present moment. Hey there, you must be this man's friend. Sorry to stop time on you all like this, but I had a little peek into the future and he's about to pour all sorts of ideas out of his brain box, and I thought I would help all of you out by giving a little rundown of what he's about to talk about. First, he's going to give an introduction to energy-based spirituality practices. Then he's going to explain the concept of vital energy. And then finally, he's going to talk about how incorporating these practices have helped him on his noble spiritual quest. So, for the past 6 years or so, my primary meditation practice has been a mindfulness-based approach, mainly from the Theravadan Buddhist tradition, which involves sitting very still and attempting to focus and still the mind, passively observing thoughts and observing sensations of the body and watching how the mind moves. And this has been an incredibly fruitful practice for me and is one I still practice most days. But over the past couple of years or so, I've been learning a lot more about tantric yoga schools like kundalini yoga and kriya yoga and pranayama breathwork used in yoga, but also tantric Buddhist practices found in the Vajrayana schools of Tibetan Buddhism, and also a bit about Taoist practices like qigong and tai chi. And what unites all of these practices is that they use the breath and visualizations and more of an active participation in bodily movement to connect to the vital energy systems in your body. This vital energy is also known as prana in yoga, as ki or chi in Taoism, or lung in Buddhism. And this loosely translates as wind or breath or vital life-giving energy. Now, if you're new to this concept, then hearing this term expressed in such different ways as wind, as energy, as breath, is confusing, and that's what I found when I first started exploring this. But I have also found that sitting in that confusion and exploring what these terms might mean and how the translations relate to my understanding of the concept has been really helpful. For simplicity's sake, for the rest of the video, I will just refer to it as energy, or I might use the term prana. But yeah, I wanted to talk about this concept of energy, of prana, and also how it has helped my meditation and yoga practices recently. I'm not a master or a teacher of this in any way, and this is far from a complete explanation, so please take my words as with a grain of salt, and if you're curious, then please do your own research and ideally find an actual teacher. But here is my interpretation of the concept all the same. So, what is energy? What is prana? What is lung? Within this physical form, there is a sense of vital energy moving through us. That is this force that empowers all of our physical actions, but also the movements of the mind. When we breathe in, we are taking in sustenance from the air, and this energy is prana. When we are eating food and taking in energy, this is prana too. When we are moving about and talking, this is fueled by this energy, this prana. But the concept goes much further than just the physical body, because from the yogic point of view, the entire cosmos is imbued with this vital energy. And it is this vital energy that gives every physical object its form, whether it is a living organism or just a rock. And it is the different arrangement of these energy particles that permeates every layer of our reality. As our meditation or qigong or yoga practice develops, or perhaps we're lucky enough to be born with this sense already, we are able to feel this vital energy moving through and within our bodies. And as our sense grows stronger still, we can even feel it in other living beings and flowing through the trees and other people. The best visualization of this energy system I've seen comes from the artist Alex Gray, and I will show you some of his work now to give you a sense of how trippy and crazy this is when you're tuned into it and with full awareness. And yeah, so that's my sense of this vital energy system. And now I want to talk about why this is a useful concept and why it's helped me a lot as I've discovered this and started imbuing my practices with this sense of this vital energy system. So, to consciously allow our attention to merge with this vital energy flowing through our body serves many purposes related to physical and mental health, but also to spiritual growth. Today I just want to talk about two particular benefits that I've noticed and that I've really connected with. The first benefit I've found is how these energy-based practices can help us stay grounded in the present moment. When we are connected to this sense of flow and energy, we are connected to the present moment in a very dynamic and fluid way that is ironically much more stable for our attention system, because it keeps it constantly engaged and in a constant state of flow, which is much more characteristic of how the universe and our minds actually move. The present moment is not static, but constantly changing. And so we need to ride the present moment more like a wave and not to try and cling onto or grasp that which we perceive and are a part of. My mindfulness-based approach that I described at the beginning, this passive observation of the mind, is fantastic for a seated meditation practice, but I struggled to take this peaceful presence off of the meditation cushion. I've got an incredibly active mind, and I'm very prone to mind wandering and drifting off in my thoughts. And with mindfulness training, I would be able to recognize that I was mind wandering, and when I was sitting perfectly still, it was easy enough to observe this, and with training I could allow the mind to become still. But when you're active and you're moving about and you're engaging with other people and doing what you need to do each day, there's a lot more energy in the system and there's a lot more energy in your mind. And it becomes very difficult to just observe. And so I found that having a practice which is more dynamic and active and all about connecting to this flowing sense of energy within you is a lot more conducive to staying present when I'm active. So the second benefit I wanted to talk about was that what I think I've learnt to be one of the principal pillars of spiritual growth is that one needs to transcend your identification with your ego, your sense of a separate self, and to recognize your connectedness with the universe. So the goal of many spiritual practices is to help us not just to recognize this as a logical truth, but to sit in this awareness so that it sinks into our system on a much deeper level than just being able to recognize something with our mind. When we engage in a practice where we're connecting to this energy within our body, we are also seeing how this energy flows through the universe around us, and we are in constant recognition of this connection. This is very different from living life through the five senses, which bind us to the reality of us being a separate object, a separate being, and it reinforces our identification with our egos. So, to expand on this on a personal level, one of the most profound realizations that I had very early on in my meditation journey was to recognize that many of my thoughts were not my own, and that often they had been generated by something or someone in my past and were now just being replayed in my head. And it really embedded this idea that my sense of self was actually a very fluid and loose and open concept. Going further, all of the elements that made up my physical body were not really mine, but had been built up from the food I ate, the water I drank, the air I was breathing, and that this physical body, was really integrally connected to the world, the universe around me. And it is one thing to recognize this, but it is a very different thing to swim in this sense of connectedness moment to moment. And what I really like about these energy-based practices is that I've found them to really help me to stay closer to this truth of my connectedness, and not just when I'm sat on the meditation cushion. I think that was what I wanted to share today. I suppose if you're new to a lot of this terminology, then this might have raised more questions than answers. But if there was anything you thought was interesting you would like me to expand on in a future video, then please let me know, and I will do my best to work that into a future video. I wish you well, and I hope the rest of your day is very spooky.